Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Fibre Co's and Make launch party. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started in a few minutes. As we are waiting for others to join, I'd love to know where you're all starting this webinar from, what part of the world you're in. My name is Daphne. I'm with the Fibre Co. I'm joining the webinar from the UK. And if you want to put in where you're from and also tell us something that you appreciate about where you are, it may be your home, it may be a place you're visiting. It'd be fun to hear not just where you're from, but what do you appreciate about it? I'm Daphne from the Fibre Co. I live in Northern England in a really beautiful part of the world called the Lake District. There are lakes and mountains, just like the one you're seeing here in this image on your screen. And it's a really beautiful place. I love living here for the rural outdoor lifestyle and the quite relaxed way of life. And I enjoy walking and hiking and that sort of thing. So that's all around me. This is a lake called Derwent Water. And those hills, we call them fells here in the background. Mountains are places that we walk up and enjoy throughout the year, really. So let's have a look and see where everybody else is coming in from in rural Montana. Wow, Bristol, UK. Anka from Munich. Oh, it's lovely to see you, Anka. Thanks for joining. Really nice to see you. North Carolina. Someone's watching from Eugene, Oregon. Hadrian's Wall, UK. Oh, you're right up the road. Not too far from us at all. Exeter and Devon loves looking out at the trees. That's nice to see. Aberdeen, Scotland. Someone's from Chicago, and they think that Chicago is a beautiful city. I agree. The buildings are gorgeous, and the lake there, it's a much bigger lake than the lakes we have around here, but it's still a lovely lake. Almost looks like the sea, doesn't it? Upper Peninsula in Michigan. Goodness me, that's a ways. That's definitely Lake Superior, on the shores of Lake Superior. Naples, Florida. Oh, we have a London, UKer, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Someone in Chicago enjoys their lack of hurricanes. I'll bet they used to live in a location with hurricanes. Oh, there's so many fun things. I hope you're enjoying the chat and reading where everybody's from and what they like about where they're from. That's really fun to see. I'll enjoy. I can't look at them all now because I don't want to have everybody wait too long. So I'd like to get this started, but it'll be fun to go back and look through this a little bit later and see where everybody's coming from. If you've just joined us in the last minute or so, you might have missed that I said, welcome to the Fibre Co's and Make launch party. I'm Daphne with the Fibre Co, and I'm here today to launch or celebrate the launch of our and Make yarns, which is a new range of yarns together with some patterns. And we have a lot of exciting things to share, and I'd like to get it kicked off. But before we do, here's just a list of the things that we're going to cover. We're going to have a little introduction to the and Make range. We're going to talk about the yarns, take a deeper dive into them. We're going to look at the designs we created to go specifically with these yarns. We're going to talk about our favorite subject, which is all of you who have joined us and the community that we find ourselves a part of. And then we're going to look at what's on the horizon for and Make, what you can expect in the future. We're going to have a chance for everybody to win prizes, and there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. I expect the presentation to go for about 30 minutes, and we'll save some time for Q&A. There'll be plenty of time for that. But before we get into those details, I mentioned that exciting thing of prizes, and everybody can be a winner today. It'll happen near the end of the presentation. There are also 9 kits that everybody who answers correctly a question about how many yarn ball illustrations they've seen throughout the presentation, they will get entered in a random draw to win one of 9 kits. And then everybody's a winner, because at the end of the presentation, we're going to give everybody a 10% discount coupon that can be used towards the and Make kits that we have for sale. So What do those prizes look like? Well, this is just a high level to whet your appetite. These are the 9 possible prizes. And just a slightly more detailed look. I'll be talking about all these designs in detail in a minute. There's one of 3 hat kits to win. Sorry, not one of 3, 3 hat kits to win. There are 3 scarf kits to win. And there are 3 sweater kits to win. We're not holding back. 9 kits is a pretty big number. And I think the odds of winning are going to be pretty high. What do you have to do? Well, as I mentioned, there are going to be yarn illustrations throughout the presentation. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Don't count photographs of yarn balls because there'll be plenty of those. Count the images, the illustrations of the yarn, and then you'll submit your count at the end of the poll, and then just wait for an email to see if you were chosen at random if you had one of the correct numbers. This is the first yarn ball. This is what you're looking for throughout the presentation. This illustration, not the images of the yarn balls. And everybody starts off with the correct count of 1, because this is your first one. So make a little mark, however you're going to count these throughout the presentation. This is your first illustrated yarn ball. Now for the star of the show, and make yarns, 1 stitch at a time. This is our branding for a new sub-range. Kind of what was behind this range of yarns was that we wanted to have a more accessible yarn range for not only new knitters who may have come into the, and crocheters, I should say, who've come into the craft over the last few years, but also to have something that would maybe be more affordable for knitters of all experience levels. What makes and make special? Well, I think it's a combination of 3 things, because when we set out to do this, we said we wouldn't compromise on quality. Although the Fibre Co is known mostly for their luxury blends, how could we have some yarns that still had nice soft handle and be more affordable and be the kinds of yarns that both beginners and experienced knitters would enjoy using? So that meant that we would have to go for the most popular weights of yarn. And that's exactly what we've done, 3 popular weights. We developed the yarn blends with sustainability in mind, as with all of our yarns. We also applied the same sense of consideration to creating a color palette. That's what the Fibre Co is known for. And I think you'll agree, but this time we did it with a little bit of a twist. There's also a new range of patterns that you've seen a few images of, and we developed these in a very different way to make it easy for beginners and jargon-free, with lots of tips and tricks of how to get things accomplished and links to tutorials. And then all this, as I said, while making the yarns more accessible at prices that are about 35% less than our typical luxury yarn range. So that's what we think makes and make special. Let's see a little bit more details on this. What are those 3 perfect yarn weights? We have a super bulky, an Aran, and a DK-weight. And the color palette, what's different about it? Well, you'll notice a lot more bright colors in this palette than is typical with a Fibre Co. And in just a minute, I'm going to show you how we achieve that. If you're familiar with the Fibre Co, you'll know that basically we built a brand around sophisticated colors, very well considered palettes. This is what we're known for. We didn't want to not use that in this range, but we also wanted to add something a little bit exciting. So you'll see some bright colors that you're not used to seeing in the Fibre Co range. We stepped out of our comfort zone, I must say, to have to do this a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. And then this beginner-friendly pattern style was, all of us probably know at least 1 or 2 people who came into the craft during the pandemic. And we all found ourselves trying to teach people how to work their way through a pattern, or, and I know I myself realized that, my goodness, our patterns are just so full of so much jargon, which you kind of have to do for the advanced knits to get it all concise and fit within a pattern. But couldn't we make it easier for those who were learning? And that just struck me that was a good thing to do. So that's what we wanted to do. Now let's take a deeper dive into each of the yarns themselves. Here's the lineup: Aran, Super Bulky, and DK. The fiber blends, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. Each of the weights come in 20 colors. They're similar. Some of them are the same exact color, but not exactly the same across all three lines. The first one we're going to deep into is the Super Bulky. The Super Bulky yarn in the Unmake range is 100% Highland wool. You can see in the upper right part of your screen here that there are two colors, a cream or ecru shade and a gray. These are natural. So what is Highland wool? It comes from for Highlands, we're not talking about the Highlands of Scotland, we're talking about Peru here. And in the Peruvian Highlands is a breed of sheep that comes from the Merino family, but has been adapted to the Highlands that you find in what they call the Altiplano near Arequipa and other parts of Peru at the higher altitudes. So this Highland wool, it's a very sturdy breed, and it comes in naturally. The wool is grown in either this cream shade or the brown gray shade that you see on the right. There are 20 shades, as I said, in the collection here. We're either dyeing on the cream for the really bright shades, or we're dyeing over top of the brown gray natural shade to get some of the more nuanced, heathery, deeper texture just from color alone. They're 100-gram balls. As a Super Bulky, there are 80 meters or 87 yarns on that 100-gram ball. You will be getting a tension of about 9 to 12 stitches over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. You'll be using 8 to 12 millimeter needles. That's US 11 to 17. And the pricing is listed here in 4 different currencies, the 4 different currencies that we sell in. Now, let's dig in and have a look at the Aran-weight. Here you see the blend changes a little bit. We have the same cream and brown gray natural shades, but this Aran-weight, or heavy worsted, depending on what you're most familiar with in terminology, is a blend of 50% Highland wool and 50% alpaca. This comes with 150 meters or 164 yards over a 100-gram ball. And there are 15 to 18 stitches for your tension at 10 centimeters or 4 inches. You're using 4.5 to 5.5 millimeter or US 7 to 9 size needles. And here's a list of the prices across our 4 currencies. And thirdly, we have the DK-weight. The DK-weight is a same blend of Highland wool and alpaca fibers, but we've added some linen. Why linen? Well, that is one thing that Fibre Co is known for, is mixing up fibers, and we couldn't help ourselves. We had to put a little linen in there because it gives quite an interesting texture and also allows for some really crisp stitches that you can just have a plain stocking stitch field of fabric, and it looks beautiful just on its own. Now, this comes in 50-gram balls, 125 meters or 137 yards on the 50-gram ball using, it's quite a standard DK weight. You're between 21 and 23 stitches for your tension on 10 centimeters, 4 inches, using 3 3/4 to 4 millimeter needles or US 5 to 6. And here's the pricing across the 4 currencies that we offer. And one thing I'd point out is that the natural gray shade is much lighter in the DK weight version than it is in the Super Bulky and the Aran. And that's because of the change in the blend, the fact that we've added the linen and we have less alpaca and more Highland wool. These 3 yarns are available now at your favorite local stockist. We have a list of stockists on our website. It doesn't identify who's carrying Unmake yarns, but find your local stockist, call, ask them if they have Unmake. If they don't, ask them to bring it in. And if you can't find it locally and you want it and you're curious, have a look on our website where we have lots of information about and make, and you can also purchase the yarn on our website. So now let's take a look at the designs. There are 3 designs, and each of these designs have been written for all 3 yarn weights. On the left, you see the Gridland Scarf. Middle is the Pearls of Wisdom sweater, and on the right is the Warm and Easy hat. We also made samples of each of these in all of the weights, as you can see here, in both a solid as well as a color block version. We wanted to share as many options as we could with you, so you could see if you didn't want a solid shade, what were some ideas for how you could customize it, and the color block instructions are also available in the patterns. Taking a deeper dive now into the Pearls of Wisdom sweater. We asked ourselves the question when we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do for a design collection for this new range. We asked the question, what sweater design can we create that would be perfect for both the first-time sweater knitter as well as those more experienced knitters who might be looking for an easy meditative knit in a minimalist design, and one that the more experienced knitter might even enjoy knitting alongside someone knitting their first sweater. And this is what we came up with, was this round yoke sweater. It is knit from the top down, and there's just a little bit of purl stitching across this yoke, and that coincides with or near the rows where you're doing your increases as you knit down to broaden it out from the neck. So this sweater is, we think, quite versatile. It is one we imagine you wearing dressed up or down or just lounging around at home. I happen to be wearing one right now. This is in the super bulky, the red sweater that you see on the right. I'm wearing an early prototype of that, and it's quite comfy. And if you wanted to see the other options here in the color block, these 6 samples here have been made and the patterns written so that you could make it exactly like any of these color block versions. So in the Aran-weight version, which you see on the left, what we did was in between the purl sections on the yoke, we gave a different strip of color there. In the color version for the super bulky, we just decided to make it mostly one color, but go with the second color on the lower half of the body and the sleeves. And then the DK version, we decided to make the yoke all one color and the body and the sleeves a second color, with trimming on the cuffs and the hem in the yoke color. Now, the Gridland Scarf. What's this one about? Again, beginner friendly. It actually, I believe, could be someone who has mastered knit and purl stitches already. It could be a first scarf. And it's created just by using knit and purl stitches to create this very wearable, very wrappable, very hug of a scarf. The Gridland Scarf, it is knit from end to end, and just using purl, alternating purl and knit stitches to create the grid. I think it's one that could be, it's definitely was designed with the idea of being gender neutral, and either the solid or their color block versions. Again, the color block versions, there are instructions for doing exactly as we have in the pattern. And here are some examples here, the 6 showing both the solids. On the left, you have the Aran, and the color block here is in these 3 shades of blue. And then the super bulky has something similar, but smaller color blocks on the ends. And then the DK, we took advantage of the fact that it's 50-gram balls and used 6 different colors to make this really bright, fun, colorful scarf. Then the Warm and Easy hat. We wanted a pattern much like the sweater, making someone's first sweater, we wanted a hat pattern that could definitely be used as a first hat project, one that beginners could practice their knit stitches on and knitting in the round, maybe their first project where they knit in the round. And to draft this pattern, we went to expert designer and teacher Kate Atherley. I mean, she literally wrote the book on making hats, making them custom and making them your own. So we said to Kate, we would like a pattern for a beanie that could be worn by everyone and a wide range of sizes. We chose 6 sizes to go from child up to a large adult. And Kate was really on board for this. And she created this lovely beanie that is worked in the round, of course, from the brim up to the top. And a very simple rib stitch on the brim. You can make it longer and fold it up, or you can just have it single layer. And the decreases that create the crown are of the type that give you quite a relaxed look to the top of the hat. And we, of course, couldn't help ourselves, and we had to use some of the scrap yarns that we had lying around to make some fun pom-poms. So just to share some ideas on how you could create something very simple, but have something be totally your own as well. The color block versions for each of the weights are shown here. For the Aran and the DK, we just did a different color on the brim, and the super bulky, we did a stripe of 3 colors. Now here's just an idea of what some of those illustrations, I mentioned that the patterns had illustrations and that they're quite jargon free. They're really friendly use of language that are designed to bring that beginner knitter along, whether it's their first hat or scarf or sweater. And there are links to tutorials, but these illustrations we put throughout the pattern, not just in how the garment evolves, but also illustrations of the tools that they might be using as well. In this case, we're showing how the sweater grows from the cast on edge at the neck all the way down through the yoke, how the body is knit with, and then how the sleeves are added at the end. We couldn't help ourselves. We had to create an and make project bag. This bag is, it's made of cotton. It has an adjustable strap that you can use either over the shoulder or as a crossbody bag. And the and make project bags are also available at some local stockists as well as on the Fibre Co's website. So one of the favorite things we get to do here at the Fibre Co, it's really one of our greatest joys, is connecting with all the wonderful, talented makers out there who work with yarn. I mean, it is, after all, why we started the company many years ago. Knitting was a hobby, yarn was a love. We didn't see the yarns that we loved on the product shelves, so we bought a small mill and started making yarns ourselves. So this whole venture here with the Fibre Co is all based on joy. And we hope you see it in our products. We hope you see it in the things that we do where we can connect with you. So we're always actively seeking opportunities to connect with and build relationships with designers, makers, podcasters. We want everybody to feel supported no matter what role they play in our industry. So how do we do this? Well, we are starting to do more and more education. And that's a big part of what we do. So from educational videos to knit-alongs to blog posts about how to do different techniques. And also we're constantly on the hunt when we're on social media looking for your makes and in particular, your makes in our yarn, but not always in our yarn. We appreciate beautiful makes and designs in any yarns, and we love to share your work and rise everybody up so we can enjoy that everybody's making. What we have scheduled in the very near future related to and make is a knit along for the warm and easy hat, and this will be coming up in November. Kate Atherley, the hat designer and expert teacher who I mentioned, is going to guide us through this. Some of you might have come to our one sock, we called it our one sock knitting classes that we had back in June. Kate was the teacher of that. We had over 1,000 participants register and join for that. And the feedback was excellent. Kate is really a good teacher. She's an excellent designer and an equally excellent teacher. And whether you're just wanting to enjoy some time with knitterly friends, you already know how to make a hat, or you have a friend that you've been trying to get into knitting, this might be the thing to do it with. But we are going to have 4 separate live classes. And we'll begin with an intro class that just really focuses on how easy it is to make a hat. And in particular, that first class will show how to join in the round, because if someone hasn't done that before, it can be a little bit daunting. The second class is going to focus on that casting on and how to actually work the ribbing. And then the third class will get into troubleshooting, just in case someone had some issues with casting on and creating their ribbing. Kate will focus on all the things that could go wrong and how to correct them. She'll then talk about how to change from the rib stitch on the brim to stocking stitch. She'll talk about how to size the height of your hat. And then she will, excuse me, I didn't mean to jump ahead. And then she will go through the finishing techniques in that final class. Probably the best part of this is that these sessions are all live, where you get to ask question and answers. And another best part of this is that they're free. And a final best part of this is that if you miss the live classes, they'll be recorded, but you'll have to be registered. So look out for the emails inviting you to register for the classes, the hat making classes. Make sure you register. And if you're registered, you will be on the list to receive the recordings of the classes, and you can watch it on your own time. Because our audience is quite global, it's hard to find a time that works for everybody. But with the recording, you don't get the benefit of asking Kate live questions, but if you have a problem as you work through something on the recorded session, you just send an email in and I'll get Kate to address it, and we'll get you an answer. So that's coming up in November. There'll be 4 live classes. Please join us. Please follow us on social media and all of that as well, and our newsletter, to make sure that you get notification that it's coming. Now, and make. What's on the horizon for and make? Well, there are more designs coming. We're not stopping here for spring, summer 23, but we are doing things a little bit different in that we're focusing on what each of the yarns might be good for. And so for the DK-weight, we're doing a couple of light accessories. And for the Aran-weight and the super bulky weight, we're doing a couple of designs for homeware. So you'll be seeing some of that in the very near future. We'll be talking about towards the end of the year. Let's see what's next. Oh, the kit prizes. Okay, it's time for the poll. I said it'd take about 30 minutes. We're here 30 minutes into the webinar. So now is your chance to add your ball counts to the poll. I'm going to flash up the poll question here on your screen. I'm going to launch this, and one of the 5 choices will be the correct number. So please go ahead and select one of these numbers, and I'll give everybody a chance to get this in. And excuse me, I'll give everybody another 30 seconds or so to get your answers in. As soon as I see the numbers aren't changing anymore, I will end the poll. And from this poll, I'll be able to collect the answers. You've registered, so we have your email, and then we're going to be making a random selection for those 9 kits. And I really wish you all the best of luck. Okay, it looks, I haven't seen an answer come in for a little bit yet, for a few minutes now. So if I could just have, for these final 10 seconds, everybody get their answer in. I will end the poll shortly. Make sure I've saved the answers. Okay, going once, twice, thrice. final answers in. Here we go. Okay, the poll has ended. I'm going to download the results here just to make sure I have them before moving on to this next slide, which is the prize that everybody wins. So everybody gets a 10% discount today if you'd like to purchase any of the and-make kits on the Fibre Co's website. The code, the coupon code for that to use to get that discount is and here you have to spell out the word and. Our system won't accept the special character ampersand. So it's and make webinar 10. That's and make webinar 10. That'll give you a chance to, if you liked any of these kits, either one of the color versions or the solid versions of the sweaters and the scarf, and I think the hats we have, mostly just the color block versions of those available, you can get 10% off of a kit. Now it's going to expire tomorrow, Friday, our midnight here in the UK. We're 5 hours ahead of US East Coast time, 8 hours ahead of US West Coast time, an hour behind Europe. And I don't have my Australian numbers, but I think you're probably all sleeping now anyway. But it is going to go through midnight UK time tomorrow, Friday. So it's just a short offer here. If you saw one of those kits you'd like, or you want to wait and see, we'll get the notices out tomorrow for who's won the kit. So you might want to wait till midday tomorrow to make sure you didn't win exactly what you would purchase otherwise. But and make webinar 10 is the code. I don't know that I forgot anything. If I have, oh, my partner in crime, who I never introduced here, Elisa, has been on the call, and she's maybe been hopefully answering some of your questions. So she's, she might have some questions and let us know what those are. And that's where we've gotten to now in the presentation, is time for Q&A. So let's see if we have any questions that have come through here.
So Daphne, we've got a couple of people asking, what was the right answer?
Oh, yes. Well, the right answer was 18. And while I saw the answers coming in, I could tell that the majority of you chose 18. So that's really good news. So a lot of you are in the runnings. Oh, what other questions? Okay, it looks like other questions that came in have been answered. Gosh, I can't really see that there's anything else here to answer. Looks like there's been a lot of things happening in chat, and someone said they didn't see their poll number, a special place to enter it. I'm sorry you couldn't see the poll. Maybe it's a pop-up window, so if you have pop-ups turned off, potentially that's why, or maybe it was under the screen that you were actually using. I'm really sorry about that. There's comments here about loving the colors and what makes a yarn sustainable. That's a good question. I mean, to us, what we say is sustainable has evolved and changed over the years. If it's from a renewable source, we say it's sustainable. Now, if we all wanted to move to wearing, say, wool as a renewable resource tomorrow, there would never be enough to go around in the world. So I think what's happening in the industry is that over time, we will see more and more that it's about being, what is sustainable is what can be become circular. And I believe even that someday we will ourselves, the Fibre Co, will say that an acrylic yarn or a previously petroleum-derived fiber could become considered sustainable if it is coming from a renewed source. It's one of the things in recycled fibers has been an issue in blends. The technology hasn't always been there for how to take something that was a blend of more than one fiber and be able to recycle it, put it back in a form that it could be spun again into a yarn and then woven or knitted or whatever is done. But I think that technology in the textile industry has been advancing, and more of that we'll see. So I think the answer to that question is not black and white. And we've always said that we are kind of what I say is, we are a greening company, one that is committed to learning what the issues are, how we can do our part, and how we can work with producers to get the best we can at that moment. An example of this is a sock yarn that we have in our range called Amble. For years, I wanted a purpose-made yarn just for sock knitting, and everything we created that didn't have nylon in it, because I was really stuck on this no nylon, was loved by the testers, because we would always send it out to avid sock knitters to test. It was loved by them, but they all said that, oh, they probably wouldn't buy it for sock making, though. They would buy it for making other things because it didn't have nylon in it. So for years, we just shunned making having a sock yarn for that reason. But I started learning that there was something called recycled nylon. I saw it in the fashion industry. I follow the brand Patagonia quite a bit. They're kind of my hero brand. And I saw where a lot of their garments were using recycled nylon. And I started asking our mills about recycled nylon. I said, could we get recycled nylon? Because if I felt like it was recycled, that would be okay. That would sit well with me. So initially the mills all said, no, that wasn't possible. They hadn't seen it, or it wasn't kind of trickling down to the mills that we worked with. But over time, with the larger brands like Patagonia and others, requesting it, it started to become more available. And finally, one day it was available. The other thing I didn't want to do was use a chlorine-based wool. And most of the washable wools use a chlorine formula to make them washable. Now, depending on where that is made, it could be made under strict standards, but in most cases, it's probably questionable. So I didn't want to use that. Well, a new process became available that used an enzyme that was environmentally friendly. So when that became available, we finally had the ingredients to make what we thought was a sustainable sock yarn. And the point that we make with our and make yarns being sustainable is the fact that we were able to lower prices by 35% when compared to our normal yarns, and without going down to acrylics and that sort of thing, which is what most companies do to make a cheap yarn, add 30%, 40% acrylic. Well, and make yarns aren't cheap, but they are a lot less expensive than our yarns that have exotic fibers in them. So I hope that answers your questions about sustainability. I'm just seeing some other comments here about beautiful colors and yarns. Thank you very much. Thanks for a wonderful presentation. Thank you for coming. Lots of thanks here. Gosh, this is wonderful for your thanks, but I'm thanking you really for taking some time out of your day. Your yarns are yummy to work with. I especially like Amble. Oh, yay, Jenny. I love Amble too. That's the one I was just talking about and it's a yarn far beyond just making socks for. So do you think that the Aran would be good to make the Weekender? Yeah, I think you could get gauge with that. I really do. We have made the Weekender with a slightly not quite a worsted weight yarn. I think the Weekender calls for a worsted weight yarn. We've made one in a DK-weight yarn and just use different needle size to get gauge. So it's a nice drapey fabric. I think you could also get it in the Aran-weight as well. We call it a heavy worsted, but swatching is always the answer to those sorts of questions. And Someone says here, this is very informative. Look forward to sample in person. Oh, fantastic, Natalie. I hope you get to see one. Are the patterns on the website or Ravelry? They are on our website and Ravelry. We use both. Lots of colors about loving, lots of comments about loving the colors, and lots of thanks for the presentation.
I have a couple of questions sent in for you, Daphne.
Oh, okay, on the Q&A, great, okay.
Q&A, so we have one question which was, I see that super bulky is single ply, are the other two not?
Yes, that is correct. The super bulky is single ply. The Aran-weight is 2 plies or 2 ends of yarn twisted together, and the DK-weight is also applied yarn. So we wanted we did the single ply for the bulky to have a specific look and comfort factor. And I can say wearing this 100% Highland wool, which, you know, you all know is not the lowest micron count of wool, but I'm wearing it next to my skin. I just have a little, undergarment under this. I'm wearing it next to my skin. I'm quite comfortable. And part of what helps that is the single ply. There is always, and I'll say it, all yarns pill. Some people think that single ply yarns pill more than others, and they can potentially do that. Highland wool is a really strong wool, and the way we twisted it and spun it was to minimize the amount of pilling. You will get pilling. You'll get pilling in this yarn. You'll get it pilled in Aran and the DK-weight, but that's part of caring for your hand knits, is taking care of those pills. So that's more than you asked, but I know sometimes why people ask the questions about plies, and it's important to share that information. So
perfect, thank you, Daphne. Another question here is, how do I register for the hat cowl?
Yes, the hat cowl will be a registration similar to how you registered for this, except that there'll be 4 separate events that come through the Zoom. It'll be a Zoom webinar. Kate Atherley and I will host that. Kate will do most of the talking. I'll just introduce her, and we will be sending an email out. So if you're on our email list, you will get an email that tells you all about it and when it's going to start. And Elisa, I don't know if you have an exact date as to when that email is going out, but
it will be coming out shortly. So everyone just stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. Yes, but it'll be 4 days across the month of November, and we'll give you plenty of time so that you have time to sign up. And don't worry if you can't attend live, because they'll be recorded, but you want to make sure you register.
And we have one final question, which was, are there any thoughts of making a fingering weight yarn?
Yes, there are thoughts. And when I mentioned what was on the horizon, I only went as far as spring, summer 23, but I can also tell you that there's a yarn in the works for the following year, and in the spring, summer of 24. And that one is yet to be announced. It may or may not be that fingering weight yarn, but we have a roadmap for how we're going to add to the and make range. If you haven't tried any yarns from the Fibre Co before, we currently have 2 fingering weight yarns. We have one that's called Cumbria fingering, and we have one that's called Amble. I talked quite a bit about Amble earlier, our sock yarn. Cumbria fingering is also a lovely fingering weight yarn, and you can check those out on our website as well. So any other questions? Let's see. Nothing in the Q&A. I'm just checking the chat. Thank you. Thank you. Just more thank yous. Bye. Lovely to see your great presentation. Oh, this is from Maggie, good friend. And she's actually the stylist for us here at the Fibre Co's, joined us. Oh, thank you. You're welcome, Maggie. Thanks for joining us. And lots of fun to be had. Comment from Louise, and lovely colors from Beverly, and thank you, and lots of enjoyment. And well, oh, goodness me. just placed our first order. That was from Brianna. Looking forward to providing this brand to wonderful, wonderful. That's and yes, excellent. That's going to be in a shop for those in Saskatchewan, if I said that correctly, in Canada. Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Weekender light. Yes, that's right. I mentioned that earlier. So terrific. Great. I can't see any other questions. If I've missed one, I'll just wait a second. Maybe you could put it in again at the bottom, but I don't. Oh, Q&A has come in. Hope a vest design in the future. Kelly, everything's possible. And a vest would be great. Vests have been really on trend this autumn, haven't they? I mean, there's been some lovely vests, and I've certainly enjoyed seeing them. We did a vest pattern ourselves last season in one of our DK-weight yarns, Aran Light. It's called Cherry Bark. So you might want to look at the Cherry Bark pattern, because that could be used for the DK-weight version of Aran-weight. And the Cherry Bark vest pattern has both a roll neck and it has a crew neck. So two different ways you can make that. And it's a design by Sarah Hatton. It was designed for our Aran light yarn, which is a DK weight. So if you're looking for a vest, that might be a good one for you. Someone won a blue ribbon for her Cherry Bark. Wow, a blue ribbon. Fantastic, Margaret. Good for you. And Grafton Yarns in Grafton, Wisconsin has Aran-weight, and they love it. So go check out Grafton Yarns, please. Is there a name for the enzyme-specific superwash process yarns? That is called Amble, A-M-B-L-E, and it's a fingering weight yarn. That yarn is very widely stocked by our stockists right now. So it also has a really lovely soft handle and some drape, because there is not only superwash wool in the blend, but there is also a superwash alpaca, and that's quite unusual. I think we're probably still the only yarn. I think I can say this. I haven't seen one yet that has a superwash, not super because that's not the right term, but a washable alpaca in the blend. So good. You should definitely check out Amble. It's been growing in popularity. We're adding new colors again next season, next spring. Those 4 new colors coming to that range. So okay, well, let's see. Love Amble. Leslie loves Amble. I do too. And Fiona says Amble is very soft. It's lovely. Yes, I have a Fair Isle sweater in Amble in my queue. Terrific, Jenny. Can't wait to start it. Wonderful. Good. Can't wait to place an order, since I don't think my count got to be the right place. Oh, sorry. Hot loops. Sorry about that. Oh, terrific. Okay, I think I've been through everything now. I don't see any more questions. Oh, wait a minute. Q&A, did that come in? I was thinking about how to look out for that enzyme process. I was asked, yes. Okay, the enzyme process. Yes, when purchasing yarns, asking about how to look out for it. Oh, okay. How to look out for that is that ours is called Easy Wash. Now that is a trademark name of the mill that creates the Easy Wash process. They're based in Peru. For others that don't use chlorine, there are only a few. I saw one just the other day, an Italian yarn, and it was actually in Italian. So, and whatever the word for chlorine was, I figured it out. It was like chlorinito or something, and they were saying, whatever the no is. And so it translated that it was not using chlorine for the wool, but that it was lavable, or, whatever that word is for wash in Italian. So I think that anybody who's making washable wools that don't use chlorine, they're shouting about it, because they do it for that reason. It is generally more expensive. The reason why it's more expensive is just like everything else that's made in smaller quantities. Until everybody just starts asking for this, we're going to constantly get nothing but the chlorine process. Most of the superwash, I would say, that you can just buy anywhere is that wool is coming from China. where we just don't know, I'm not saying that all Chinese manufacturers wouldn't be following any kind of standards, but we just don't know. We don't have access to that information. Excellent, thank you. Look for not using chlorine or easy wash. That's right, that's what you do. Excellent. Okay, great, okay. I think that's it. One final thank you here at the bottom of the chat, and one final thank you from me. If I can ever answer any questions for you, I'm happy to do that. Reach out to us on social media. If you have a question about an order that you've placed, send a note to orders@thefibreco.com. I love getting your feedback. You can send feedback. Anything you send to orders@thefibreco gets funneled to me if it's addressed to me. So please send an email there for anything that you'd like to get directly in front of me. You'll also, if you're signed up to our newsletter, get emails from my email all the time. Feel free to reply to any one of those. And just one final thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here so that we can create the things that we do and enjoy watching what you make with them. So I hope you enjoyed the And Make launch party. We look forward to seeing you next time and maybe in the knit along in November. Bye for now.